Okay, good evening to everyone. Welcome here for another episode of the Conscious Wellbeing Festival in Ecosinnova. Today, we are really happy because we have a very special guest. His name is Vinay Gunther, and he's here with us. Hello, Vinay. How are you today?
Very happy to be here.
Me too. Very happy to have you. And thank you for everyone who's connecting to this stream. We hope you can leave us your comments, your questions if you have any. And we will be sharing interesting information throughout this talk. Y para las personas que se están conectando también de pronto desde otro lugar, que hablan español, pues bienvenidos de nuevo al Festival de Bienestar Consciente y el día de hoy estamos con Vina y Gunther y él muy amablemente ha venido a compartir muchas cosas importantes con nosotros de cómo nos podemos relacionar mejor con nosotros mismos y con el mundo en general. Okay, so I'm going to invite Vinay to tell us a little bit about what he thinks about the concept or the word well-being. What do you think well-being stands for?
Well, I guess I'm interested not just in the sort of cognitive meaning, but in the sort of felt sense of it. And of course, we can make all sorts of definitions of what it is. What I start with is the feeling that I have when I look at that word or I think about well-being, which is a feeling of kind of related to wholeness or positive positivity coming from the heart, of a sense of connectedness and integration. Those are words that I would use to describe what the word represents for me on a feeling level.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much. Bueno, Vinay nos dice que para él la palabra bienestar tiene que ver con una sensación, con algo, un sentimiento, pero es más la sensación, porque ya sentimiento es más aquí de pensar un concepto, pero es más la sensación de sentirse completo de alguna manera. Okay, thank you, Vina. Do you know a little bit about the difference between well-being in English and bienestar in Spanish?
Uh, Bienestar, good to be good, to be good, to be well. It sounds sort of the same to me, but I guess there's some subtle kind of nuances in the particular Spanish words.
Yeah, there is something very little, but very, very meaningful as well, which is that in Spanish, estar, it's like a state that it's not necessarily permanent, but something that you can feel
Oh,
at a
that's right.
specific time. Exactly. Well,
Mm,
well-being is something that you are because
mm,
it's to be. So I think it's interesting. We have been talking about this in the other uh, streams that we have had, and yeah, I think it's something that we can keep exploring. Pues estamos hablando de la diferencia que existe entre la palabra bienestar en español y la palabra well-being en inglés, porque well-being tiene que ver más con un estado permanente como del ser, mientras que estar es algo que puede estar en algún momento y luego cambiar, porque el ser, el verbo ser y estar, pues en español tiene distinción, mientras que en inglés el verbo be, to be, significa lo mismo. ¿Ok? Vamos a hablar de eso en otros encuentros también nuevamente. Okay, I'm going to introduce you to our special guest. So, Vinay, he's an international Gestalt trainer. He's the director of Gestalt Therapy International. He holds an MA of Mental Health and a graduate diploma of Social Ecology and a graduate diploma of Gestalt Therapy. He has practiced and studied meditation, spirituality, and psychotherapy over a 40-year period. His background also includes theater and clowning, street theater, community activism, meditation, philosophy, and practice, as he is very interested in social change. This is super beautiful. And at the same time, Vina is the author of a best selling book for men called The Woman in Your Life, A Man's Guide to a Happy Relationship. Today, Vina is going to be sharing with us various ways in which we can contact with our own needs so we can make the most of our relationship with ourselves and the relationship that we have with others. ¿Ok? En resumen, Vinay, él es un entrenador de Gestalt internacional, también es el director de Gestalt Therapy International. eh, También él ha participado en varios, perdón, ha participado y estudiado meditación, espiritualidad, psicoterapia durante más de 40 años. Al mismo tiempo, él ha estado interesado en el teatro, en clowning, en el teatro callejero, activismo comunitario, filosofía, y todo esto lo ha, digamos, como tenido desde el marco del cambio social. Al mismo tiempo, Vinay escribió un libro bestseller para hombres llamado The Woman in Your Life, A Man's Guide to a Happy Relationship. Ahorita Vinay nos va a hablar un poquito de esto también. Okay, Vinay. So from all the things that I described, what would you say that it's like the most important thing from everything you have created or explored in the world of Gestalt? Like, what would you say
Um,
is the height?
uh, well, I mean, I guess teaching in China at the moment is certainly pretty exciting for me. I teach internationally. I teach in many countries around the world, but I've been focusing on China predominantly for the last 4 or 5 years. So, building a program in China, yeah, that's been great. We've got a full professional Gestalt training here. So that's a big thing to establish, and I'm pretty happy about that. I'm going to be going to Egypt next year for the first time to be teaching Gestalt. So I'm always very pleased and excited to travel to different countries and experience different cultures and bring Gestalt to those cultures and also learn something always at the same time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we had the really beautiful opportunity to have Vinay here in Colombia. And the fact of having Vinay in Colombia personally has been super meaningful in my life. And I will always be grateful from everything you have taught me. Hemos tenido la oportunidad hermosa de tener a Vina en Colombia y pues personalmente le agradezco a él y a la vida por todas las enseñanzas que él me ha brindado y por siempre agradecida con él y muy agradecida que está aquí para compartir algo de todo eso que él tiene para entregar. Y Vina y nos dice que uno de los logros importantes que está teniendo en este momento es haber llevado a cabo o desarrollar un programa de formación de Gestalt completo en China, donde él trabaja en este momento. Okay, Vinay. So I think at the moment, many people might be wondering what Gestalt is. Bueno, para los que estén de pronto preguntándose qué quiere decir Gestalt, Vinay nos va a ir introduciendo un poco, ¿ok?
Mm. Yeah, well, it's always a little difficult to put Gestalt in a nutshell, uh, but I'll give it a go. Um, in Gestalt, we talk about working in different ways. So one of the primary ways that we work is with awareness. And so what that means is that we're so much working in terms of the logical, left brain, planning, thinking, executing type of way of dealing with problems in life. We're much more interested in awareness as a kind of a Zen, present, like almost a mindful kind of being with experience without interpreting it. So Gestalt is a non-interpretive therapy. If someone tells me a dream, I don't want to just tell them what it means. I want to explore their awareness. And in this lovely graphic that Anna Marie has created, which is, I think, quite cool. She's got awareness there, and awareness flows, as in her diagram. Awareness is always flowing. And it's like, I mean, if I use the example of acupuncture, for those who've experienced it, they put the needles in the different meridians, the flow points of chi or energy in the body. And the idea is that the chi needs to flow for our health. And if the chi gets blocked, it gets stagnant, and then we get disease or problems. So the idea of the acupuncture needle is you put a needle in the meridian where it's blocked, and so you help restore the flow and therefore restore health. So Gestalt's a little like that. Like, we have the chi, we have our life energy that's available to us, and if it's flowing, we're going to, be in health, healthy relationships, healthy psychologically. But where it gets blocked or it becomes stagnant, then of course you get problems. So in that sense, the role of the Gestalt therapist is a little like the acupuncture needle. We find, what's stopping the flow, and we pay some attention to that, bring in some support and restore the flow, in which case then a person's kind of natural capacities to move through life and contact and get their needs met can be restored.
I sorry, we had a problem, uh, and Vinay went out from the presentation, so he's coming back in a second. Ya Vinay va a regresar, perdónenme un segundo. Mm, Ok, bueno, mientras Vinay regresa, voy a contarles un poco de lo que él nos estaba compartiendo sobre Gestalt. Entonces, Gestalt tiene que ver más que todo con el darse cuenta. Y es un darse cuenta que es fluido, que está sucediendo todo el tiempo, y ese fluir de darse cuenta todo el tiempo, Vinay también lo describía como puntos de acupuntura. Entonces, él dice que pues Gestalt tiene que ver como con esos puntos de acupuntura, como que vamos tocando para darnos cuenta que algo está pasando en nosotros. Entonces, pues él utiliza esta metáfora para ver de qué manera nosotros con ese darnos cuenta estamos como tocando distintas partes de nosotros para ver qué hay ahí. También él nos dice que Gestalt tiene que ver con el hecho de estar presente, con el hecho de reconocer lo que está sucediendo en nosotros a cada momento. Creo que acaba de entrar Vinay. Hi, Vinay. Sorry, we had
Okay,
an issue just all of a sudden. We
that
didn't
was
see
me.
you again.
That was the internet here, I think. Yeah, it's a little unstable sometimes.
Don't worry. I was translating what you just said about acupuncture and
Okay, very
awareness.
good.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's one way to think about how we work with awareness in Gestalt. It's in Chinese they have a word wu wei, which is in English is kind of translated as creative void. It's a sort of a doing and not doing. So it's a bit of a mystical term. It's a Taoist term, and it suggests that a way of being present, basically, in relationship, which is what we're interested in Gestalt. So that again characterizes Gestalt as a little different than maybe some other therapy, cognitive behavioral or something. The roots of Gestalt are also in existentialism. So we're interested in not so much agendas for people being different, but more about fully who they are and really owning that. So it's not so much a change agenda in a sort of a goal-directed, perhaps coaching way. It is understanding more of yourself.
Thank you so much, Vinay. I'm going to say that super quick in
Sure.
Spanish.
Mm.
Bueno, Vinay nos dice que también hay un concepto en chino que es súper bonito, importante, que es el concepto del Wu Wei, que tiene que ver con el vacío creativo, y esa es una forma de conectar con nosotros también. Y pues a las personas que no estuvieron ayer en la charla, los invito a que lo vean porque también hablamos muchísimo de ese vacío o también al mismo tiempo como de las condiciones que permiten que se dé la creatividad. We were talking a little bit about this yesterday in this stream because we said like there should be certain conditions in order to create. So with the balancing of masculine and feminine, so that was very good. I'm going to read a comment that Juan Salgado is leaving us here. So let's see what he says. And thank you, Juan, for being here. Muchas gracias. He says, the process of Gestalt psychology is a way to understand the laws that are below the capacity of acquiring and maintaining significant perceptions in the world that is apparently chaotic. Some of the principles of Gestalt are proximity, similarity, closure, continuity, and also a figure. Mhm. Maybe you can say a little bit about
Yeah,
them.
well, that's derived from Gestalt psychology, which is part of the foundation of Gestalt therapy. The Gestalt psychologists were developing their ideas in the late 19th, early 20th century, around the same time as Freud. And in fact, they were influenced by teachers that Freud was also attending, such as Brentano and others. So, that there's a development of Gestalt in the form of a psychology in the early days, but it was Fritz Perls that took all those sort of principles and transformed it into a psychotherapy.
That's great. Thank you so much, Vinay, for that. Bueno, entonces, del comentario que hace Juan respecto a la psicología Gestalt, lo que nos dice Vinay es que, claro que sí, esos principios son así en la psicología Gestalt, sin embargo, y pues que esa psicología tenía que ver también con la escuela de Freud, y después un señor cuyo nombre es Fritz Perls, y él fue quien desarrolló la terapia Gestalt a partir de esos principios. Entonces, en ese enfoque es el que nos vamos a concentrar el día de hoy, ¿ok? Y para esto, Vinay nos va a hablar un poco como de qué pasa con la Gestalt dentro de nosotros. So, in order for you to explain more about this psychotherapeutic process of Gestalt therapy, you're going to go a little bit further into what Gestalt does inside of us or the relevance of Gestalt in our lives in a practical
Mm.
way.
Mm. Yes, because the Gestalt principles are interesting and relevant in terms of the study of awareness, but in Gestalt we want to, bring this into an enhanced sense of well-being in people's lives. So the psychotherapy is the question of how do we do that?
Ah, ok, thank you, Vinay. Sí, digamos que en psicoterapia todos estos principios que actúan en Gestalt nos están ayudando a entender en la vida cotidiana cómo realmente los ponemos en práctica. Ujú.
So in working with awareness, we ask a simple question. I say simple because it's actually quite deep, which is, what are you aware of right now?
Entonces, cuando trabajamos con el darnos cuenta, en esos momentos preguntamos, bueno, ¿de qué te estás dando cuenta en este momento específicamente?
Because people, bring their stories. They talk about their history or about the people in their lives and the problems that they have, and that helps us understand something about their context. But what we want to do is we want to take everything that they're talking about and bring it into the present so we can actually work with it in a direct and immediate way.
Sí, las personas en terapia llegan normalmente a contar como qué es todo lo que les está pasando y eso está aquí como dando vueltas, pero la idea en la psicoterapia Gestalt es llevar a la persona a en ese momento trabajar con lo que hay ahí presente.
Yeah, so, we take it out of once removed descriptions and we take it into the live showing, like, we're doing a live broadcast now. So we're sort of doing the same thing. We're taking what people are describing in their lives and making it live. So we pay attention to awareness here and now. We pay attention to feelings and expression, and we engage in the here and now with people's awareness.
Entonces nosotros lo que estamos haciendo aquí justamente en este momento es darnos cuenta como de qué son esas cosas que están ahí presentes, como en ese darse cuenta de las personas que están aquí viendo esta transmisión en vivo y nos conectamos como con esos sentimientos, sensaciones y emociones que están ahí presentes.
And as Anna Maria has done in this initial diagram, we have a tangled ball of thread that, you can't make sense of, and things are not clear, and that's how people come into therapy, of course.
Y en este diagrama que hizo Ana María, pues se ve todo así como en maraña y de esta forma es como llega normalmente la gente a terapia, así como con todo revuelto.
So then what we do is through this here and now process, we bring the person into themselves, into their body, into their feelings particularly, and that helps start to clarify the tangled ball of thread.
Y entonces lo que hacemos en terapia es llevar a la persona que empiece a darse cuenta cuáles son esos sentimientos, esas emociones, para que pueda empezar a desenmarañar poquito a poco como todo eso que está ahí enmarañado.
And in Gestalt, we have a understanding of how to go from the tangled ball of thread into something that's smooth and clear and integrated. And that's a process which involves different stages. And Maria's got this great little demonstration of that in her model.
Oh, you're so sweet, Vinay. Thank you. I'm glad that you like it, because that's the whole point. Bueno, Vinay dice que sí, que, o sea, que en este desenmarañar la persona se empieza a dar cuenta de un montón de cosas y Vinay dice que pues en este pequeño como diagrama pues se puede ver de manera muy interesante y divertida cómo es que esto sucede. Y pues sí, justamente esos colores como que llegan a desenmarañar eso negro. I'm saying that these colors start like trying to make sense a little bit with that dark thing that is there, like, huh?
That's right. So, yeah, I mean, it starts often with the body, although people will describe situations, but we like to start with sensation. We like to start with feeling, get out of all the analysis and come to a more grounded experience to begin with.
Claro, y esto, digamos, como que normalmente esa maraña es como una maraña de pensamientos, pero pues la idea en la psicoterapia Gestalt es llevar a la persona a que empiece a darse cuenta de lo que siente en su cuerpo y como que esa experiencia sea cada vez más aterrizada. Por eso la importancia del cuerpo. Yes, I wanted to ask you to please talk about the importance of contact. Contact.
Right. So so far we've just been talking about awareness kind of in the person, and that's where we start. But Gestalt is more than just an awareness exploration. There's some forms of therapy such as sensing and focusing rather that do that. They just sort of work with this awareness in the way that we're describing. But Gestalt adds some other dimensions, and one of those dimensions is the dimension of contact or relationship.
Muy bien, gracias. Sí, digamos, otra de las cosas de terapia gestal, pues no es solamente como el darse cuenta, sino que también hay otros como acercamientos a la terapia gestal, tienen que ver con el contacto y con las relaciones.
Yeah, so the kind of, when we use the word contact in Gestalt, it's like this. It's like two differences meeting. And what we're interested in is especially meeting in difference, which I think is quite characteristic of Gestalt.
Cuando hablamos del contacto, es como la unión de dos cosas que están separadas o diferentes, y en esa unión o en ese encuentro es cuando hablamos del contacto.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we could say things get in the way of the quality of meeting. You know, people, they imagine things about the other person. Like the other day, I was dealing with a conflict between some of my students, and one of the students said to another one, "Oh, the problem is you're jealous with me."
Mm.
Now, you know, could be true, but in some ways that was, she's imagining that the other woman's jealous, you know. So unless she checks it out, it's her imagination. Might be true, might not be true, something else might be going on. So there's all sorts of assumptions that people tend to operate by, which puts them out of contact. So we want to bring into contact by being, you know, with the person as they are, rather than as we imagine them to be, or even they imagine themselves to be. So it's really grounding in, you could say, real experience rather than simply imagination.
Wow, sí, muy importante. Ok, Vinay nos habla que, digamos, él tuvo una experiencia con algunas de las alumnas en sus formaciones de Gestalt, que una dijo como, no, yo creo que el problema, refiriéndose a otra alumna, yo creo que el problema es que tú estás celosa de mí. Y entonces Vinay le preguntaba, bueno, o sea, ¿tú cómo sabes que esa persona está celosa de ti? Puede que sea que está en tu imaginación, a menos de que eso lo pongas en contraste con lo que la otra persona piensa o realmente está haciendo. Entonces, Vinay nos dice que nosotros nos separamos de ese contacto que podemos llegar a tener con el otro cuando nos guiamos es por nuestra imaginación de lo que la otra persona está haciendo, en lugar de realmente contactar con el otro y decirle de pronto, bueno, qué es lo que realmente estás sintiendo. Entonces,
Mm.
sí. Ujú.
So let's say we first meet someone, and initially there's a positive or a negative reaction. And if it's a positive reaction, let's carry it all the way. You know, we fall in love with that person, and then we've got them constructed in this very, very wonderful way. Sometimes we meet someone and we have a negative reaction, and we maybe, you know, through prejudice or something, we might construct them in a negative way. So that's an immediate sort of, you could say, disruption to contact that happens. But then in longer term relationships where we, you know the person, the same thing happens. We kind of, what gets in the way of contact is what we think about the other person, or the motives we ascribe to them, or, you know, what we imagine that they're doing to us, or the ways in which they're maybe not, you know, attending to our needs or something. So it's kind of, it gets that tangled ball of wool. It's hard to disentangle what's actually going on from what we imagine is going on.
Perfecto, sí, Vinay nos dice que en las relaciones, nosotros, por ejemplo, si nos enamoramos de alguien, la primera sensación que tenemos de esa persona es algo maravilloso, como una idealización, como que esa es la primera sensación que nos da. Que ya en relaciones, pues ya de duración larga, bueno, Vinay ya va a regresar, en relaciones ya de una larga duración, en ese momento empezamos a de pronto empezar a asumir cosas respecto a la otra persona. Entonces, en ese momento es cuando necesitamos más checar con la otra persona realmente qué es lo que está pasando, y no quedarnos solamente en la imaginación. Entonces, en esas relaciones de larga duración es cuando más necesitamos contactar con el otro y al mismo tiempo con nosotros mismos, que es lo que nos da la información de cómo es que nos estamos sintiendo respecto al otro, y al mismo tiempo nos invita a saber de qué forma podemos contactar con el otro para resolver la duda que tengamos. Listo, regresó Vina y justo perfecto en el momento. You came back exactly at the right time. I just made the translation of what you just said. So perfect.
Good. So yeah, so the work of therapy is to try to untangle that and get some kind of clear contact, which requires basically me pulling back my projections, my imagination, my owning my imagination, and my, being more with myself and my experience, and being really interested and open to the other person's experience. So those are some of the elements of what we call good contact.
Claro, y en el buen contacto, lo importante es realmente estar como interesado por la experiencia del otro y no solamente la de nosotros mismos. Hay personas de pronto que en las relaciones están tan concentradas en sí mismos, en lo que sienten, en lo que les pasa, en lo que imaginan, que se olvidan del otro y se supone que están en relación. Entonces, Vina y lo que dice es que en terapia Gestalt justamente se invita a las personas a volver a contactar cada vez más consigo mismos y por ende con el otro para tener una mejor relación. Do you mind talking a little bit about your book right now? I think it would be great, maybe if you could talk about it a little. Bueno, entonces
Okay.
como les decía, gracias. Como les decía, Vinay tiene, pues es el autor de un libro bestseller que se llama The Woman in Your Life. Ah, The Woman in Your Life, A Man's Guide to a Happy Relationship. Ya lo vamos a ver aquí un segundito. Y Vinay nos va a contar de qué se trata este libro. So maybe you can start telling us a little bit about it.
Sure. Yeah, well, I wrote it first more than 20, I don't know, 22 years ago, 23 years ago, after the demise of my first marriage, and I was trying to figure out what went wrong and such. And so I started writing it, and it took a number of years to completely form. Um, so it's basically a book of advice for men about relationships with women. It's sort of not Gestalt in the sense that I'm just giving advice, but in Gestalt we sort of work with it. But books are basically ideas of advice in some form. And yeah, it's I'm making it as straightforward and clear as I can, and yet I'm introducing lots of different perspectives that come out of psychotherapy and my own life and work and experience. It was translated into Spanish in Mexico about 20 years ago, and became a bestseller there. It's no longer published there, unfortunately, and I do need to find another Spanish publisher because it was obviously very, very popular there.
We will find a way for sure, Vinay. I'm glad that you're
Okay.
mentioning it. I'm glad that you're mentioning it because this is a beautiful treasure that we need to onboard it again in order to, to give it to the world. Bueno, entonces Vinay creó este libro hace 22 años después de que se terminó su primer matrimonio y fue a raíz de todas las reflexiones que él tuvo, de pronto de qué fue lo que no salió bien, que él hizo este libro y lo escribió, de pronto no con el enfoque Gestalt, porque pues digamos que en Gestalt no se da como consejos, por ejemplo, y pues en el libro él da consejos, pero pues sí resume como varias estrategias que él ha descubierto pues a lo largo de su vida en relación como a cómo tener una mejor relación de pareja. Entonces, pues es muy lindo, nos dice que ha estado traducido en México, lo traducieron al español, pero que ahora pues ya no está publicado, pero pues que hay que encontrar alguien que lo pueda publicar en español y pues yo le digo a Vina que lógicamente vamos a apoyar a que esto suceda para que las personas que lo quieran leer en español lo puedan hacer y al mismo tiempo, pues las personas que lo quieran leer en inglés lo pueden encontrar en Amazon, está el libro de Vinay, ¿ok? Thank you, Vinay, that's so nice. So I think, well, how are you feeling right now? Like taking into account the feeling.
I'm pretty happy. I'm enjoying talking with you. You've created a really lovely platform, and I enjoy your liveliness and the aesthetics and the fact that you're bringing to audiences new ideas and ways of being. So I'm feeling a lot of pleasure being a part of this process. I'm aware that I've got to go soon, unfortunately, which is a pity because I'm very much enjoying being here. Mm.
Thank you so much, yeah, Vinay. We will do it super quick so you can move on to your other commitments. And at the
Mm.
same time, thank you as well for being here. And I'm glad that you are enjoying this process. Bueno, le pregunto a Vinay que cómo se está sintiendo, pues teniendo en cuenta también el tema gestáltico de ir chequeando con la persona cómo se va sintiendo en el momento. Y él dice que se está sintiendo muy feliz, que es una plataforma donde es muy colorido, que le gusta mucho cómo se ve todo y que al mismo tiempo se siente muy feliz y que es placentero estar aquí. Entonces, pues me alegra mucho que así se sienta él y pues con la compañía de todos nosotros, las personas que estamos conectadas. I'm going to read a message that Pau wrote here. So she said, "Good evening. Thank you for these beautiful and interesting um, streams as part of the festival. Thanks to Ecosinnova and to all the guests for sharing their knowledge." Thank you, Pau, for being here with us as well. Listo, bueno, Pau nos dice, buenas noches, gracias por estos encuentros tan interesantes en el festival, gracias Ecosinnova y a todos los invitados por compartir su conocimiento. Listo, entonces Vina y también nos va a explicar un poquito como de algo, pues a nivel como muy concreto, pero algo muy importante que se llama el ciclo de la experiencia de Gestalt, ¿ok? The Gestalt Cycle of Experience. So Vina is going to tell us a little bit very quickly how this relates to what we have been talking about and how it helps us like to be aware of this in a practical way. And with this, we will close for today. Okay.
Right. Well, okay. So Anna Maria's done this fabulous diagram, and I could spend many hours discussing it. However, just to sort of encapsulate some core themes here, um, at the top we have sensation, which is where we kind of start with the body and the feelings and inquiry into the here and now, and that elicits some clear awareness because we have that tangled ball of wool, but something becomes clear. And we're not ambitious. We just start with one thing, one figure, as we call it, and we call it ripening that figure. We deepen it, we intensify it, we go more into it, and then some energy arises. That might be excitement and desire for change. It might be fear, might be anger, all sorts of things, all sorts of types of energy become apparent when we stay with whatever the issue is or the problem is. And so we want to, and often people, they block their feelings, they block their sensation, or they block their clarity. There's sort of blocks that happen in each way. So people also block that mobilization of energy, so nothing else happens. They just feel, some energy and they hold it in. It doesn't move into action because naturally when you have enough energy about a topic, you're just going to, do something about it. It's not like a plan or I've got to do this. It's just, that becomes spontaneous within this, what we call the flow of awareness. And taking action that way leads in some form to contact. I talked about contact as something happens between people, but contact can also happen in relation to a situation, even an old situation, unfinished business with your parents or something. That we can still do that within the Gestalt session, even if the parents have died. We get a dialogue going and we facilitate contact, and then that leads to a sort of a settling and a kind of a closure for the moment, not necessarily completely solving the problem, but at least for now feeling like we've sort of had a movement through this awareness process such that we're like it can fade a bit into the background and we can pay attention to something else. So that's a very brief synopsis of the awareness cycle.
Thank you so much, Vina. Y bueno, entonces él nos acaba de hacer una pequeña sinopsis de este ciclo de experiencia porque lógicamente podría él durar horas enteras hablando de esto porque pues tiene muchas capas distintas, pero pues lo hizo de manera muy breve y pues que al mismo tiempo es súper importante lo que nos acaba de compartir. Entonces, este ciclo empieza con una sensación, como hemos estado diciendo el día de hoy, como con algo que se mueve, como con algo que empieza a tomar forma, así no sepamos qué es, como esa maraña que estaba ahí revuelta. Luego, entonces, a medida que vamos observando esa maraña, nos vamos dando cuenta, uy, ¿qué será que es lo que siento? De pronto es miedo. Entonces, ahí nos damos cuenta y es donde pasamos al siguiente paso. Después, entonces, la energía se moviliza y cuando hay suficiente energía que se ha movilizado, que se ha acumulado, pasamos a la acción. Si no hay suficiente energía que se ha acumulado, pues la acción no es posible. Entonces, después de que se toma una acción, pues normalmente hay contacto. Entonces, Vinay dice que, por ejemplo, pues también hay contacto en las relaciones, como estábamos describiendo ahorita, o puede ser, digamos, que una persona en terapia llega a contactar con algo que quedó sin resolver de su vida durante años y años, y entonces vuelve y contacta con esa situación. Puede ser, digamos, como el fallecimiento de alguno de sus padres. Así los padres ya hayan fallecido, en terapia se puede contactar de nuevo con ese sentimiento, con eso que quedó ahí sin resolver y eventualmente después de hacer ese contacto, pues se lleva a un cierre. Entonces, pues por eso es que el ciclo se completa. Y en Gestalt lo que se busca es justamente ayudar a que la persona vaya cerrando ciclos que quedaron abiertos en algún momento. Thank you, Vinay. Great. So maybe just to mention super quick some of the interruptions that could happen in the cycle.
I don't think super quick's a good idea because, it's just it's a very big topic. Like I say, could spend many hours on it. So I think it's enough to say that people do interrupt at each phase of the
Hmm.
cycle, and it's worth paying attention to how they interrupt, and that's what we do in Gestalt. We're we're looking at, well, how do you stop yourself moving naturally through the cycle? The actual interactions themselves are somewhat complex, and they all involve some kind of interruption to contact.
Thank you so much. Le digo a Vina que si él puede hablar rápidamente como de cuáles son esas interrupciones que se dan en este ciclo de Gestalt para que podamos entender un poco. Y él dice que rápidamente no se puede hacer porque es algo que requiere mucha atención y tiempo, pues porque es algo bien complejo. Entonces, él dice que de todas maneras, pues estas interrupciones que se pueden dar en el ciclo Gestalt, la mayoría tienen que ver con el contacto. ¿Ok? Thank you, Vina. Great. So, in order to conclude, like how can we use in our practical sense this Gestalt cycle of experience in order to have cycle completed and to make contact with our needs, for example, in order just like to conclude with this.
Well, yes. I mean, I could say something in a nutshell, but of course, the doing of it is what often needs support and hence therapy. Essentially, we're paying attention to two major things. Firstly, awareness, what's going on in the here and now, particularly what I'm feeling, staying with that awareness. And secondly, bringing that into contact, into connection with the other, with the minimum of imagination and more just staying with what my experience actually is and being interested in the other person's actual experience. I mean, if people can do that, then that's a very good beginning and kind of really takes you through the process. That's the essence of it in many ways.
Ok, perfecto. Entonces Vinay dice que pues lo más importante de todo lo que él ha descrito también es como el hecho de tomar contacto y darse cuenta de qué es eso que está sucediendo. Y en terapia Gestalt se lleva de muchas maneras justamente a que la persona contacte con eso que está sintiendo ahí y está tratando de tomar forma en su interior. Ujú.
So, I mean, that's really all we've got time for today, unfortunately.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Vina. It has been beautiful. It has been great. Thank you so much for your generosity. And I want to invite people, if you want to keep in touch with Vina's work, you can follow him on, I'll show you now. You can follow him on Facebook or Instagram. And at the same time, if you have any question that maybe was in the air from this video, you can let us know, and we can contact Vinay in case there is something specific that you would like to have, um, yeah, answered. Okay.
Perfect.
Muchas gracias, Vina. Y pues a los que quieran seguir a Vina, y lo pueden seguir así como está en la pantalla desde Facebook o desde Instagram. Y si tienen alguna pregunta que nos quieran hacer, lo pueden hacer a través de Ecosinnova. Thank you so much, Vinay. I hope to be able to support like the book translation and other projects, and hopefully to have you again here. Mm?
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Anna Maria. I've enjoyed spending the time with you and with your audience.
Thank you so much. Had a beautiful day or night. What time is it there?
It's 10:20 a.m.
Wow, okay, great. It's 9:20 here where I am PM. So you are starting the day. Well, here is finishing. Okay. Thank you so much, Vinay. Muchas gracias por todo.
Mhm.
Y gracias a todas las personas que se conectaron el día de hoy. Y nos vemos en una próxima ocasión. Bye, Vinay. Thank you so much. Bye bye.